Hello and welcome to Clear Out. I'm your host Nihal Qatar. As always, I'm joined by my brother Sahil. We were out of the country for a couple of weeks, so we were on a bit of a hiatus. We weren't able to watch a lot of basketball because of the time difference, or at least watch it closely. And we weren't able to record either. But we are back to talk about the conference finals and the NBA draft lottery. Sahil, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I feel like these have been some interesting series, and I'm excited to get into it.
Me too. We are going to start with the draft lottery. However, the San Antonio Spurs win the Victor Wembanyama lottery, presumably. I mean, I guess we don't know if they're going to take Victor Wembanyama.
They're going to say, we're going to do our process. We're going to look at each candidate and everything, and that's just not true because they already know they're going to pick Victor.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope they take Victor. And he seemed pretty stoked about it as well. Stories came out today that the Wizards were one ping pong ball away from having the first overall pick, as were the Trailblazers. I don't really know how that works, but I saw that, so that must be pretty heartbreaking for Wizards fans. The Pistons drop to 5, which, they were tied for the highest odds to get the number 1 overall pick, so that's disappointing for them. Charlotte has the 2nd pick in the draft, Portland the 3rd, and Houston with the 4th overall pick. Dallas keeps their pick at 10, so tanking at the end of the season kind of worked for them. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about Victor Wembanyama, presumably a Spur?
Well, I think it gives Popovich certainly an incentive to stick around a little bit longer. One of the most anticipated prospects we've had.
The most anticipated prospect we've had since LeBron.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
I think Zion was the closest, maybe, but I don't think Zion has reached this amount of hype. And true, I mean, Zion had a lot of hype around his game, but not everyone thought he was a slam dunk prospect as a player.
Yeah, especially since he already kind of had injury history in college as well.
Yeah, I mean, he had an injury.
Yeah, he had an injury, yeah. I think, and there were always concerns a little bit about his defense, even going into the NBA. I don't think that's as big of a deal, or that's obviously not a concern for Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, just obviously we've talked about his handle, his skill, his 3-level scoring. Like, he's going to be an incredible prospect. But I think
we do need to slow it down a little bit. I can't remember now who the quote was, but it was like, if he's Anthony Davis or Hakeem Olajuwon, it's a failure for him. And like, that is just an insane statement. I think, yes, he has the potential to be the best player in the NBA in a few years, but if he's not that, but he's still like an all NBA guy, I mean, that's still better than a lot of first overall picks.
I don't even think you can use the word bust if someone's an all-star, no matter what their hype was, really. I mean, I just wouldn't consider anyone...
Depends what kind of... I mean, do you consider D'Angelo Russell a bust? He was a 2nd overall pick. He's made 1 all-star game.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about D'Lo today. I mean, maybe that's like borderline. Yeah, okay, fine. If you're like, he was an injury replacement, right? In the all-star game.
Was he? Okay, what about you think Andrew Wiggins is a bust?
No, I don't think Andrew Wiggins was a bust. He was a key part of a championship-winning team last year, and one of their most important players.
He's not a bust, but I mean, he was on bust trajectory for a little while there, right? And then he got into a situation where he was a really good role player. I mean, we've seen that before. Like, I don't know, someone like Christian Laettner. I don't remember where he was drafted, but he was on the dream team as a college player, and then he didn't have a great start to his career, but he became a solid role player. So I guess it's not really a bust. But if you're first overall, you want something more. I'm sure Minnesota wanted something more out of Andrew Wiggins. So
yeah, I guess I consider a bust not just like not meeting expectations in terms of draft placement. I also just consider it like they didn't pan out. They didn't contribute to winning. They weren't almost out of the league. Like if you contribute to winning in a substantial way and are still a valuable player, like, I don't consider you a bust, really. That's just me.
No,
that's people fair. Can have their own definitions, I guess.
That's fair.
Because it also just creates an unhealthy kind of climate to talk about prospects, right? If we just, look, exactly what you're saying. Like, if Victor isn't like an MVP, he's a bust. Like, that's stupid.
Well, I think if he's not an all-star, I mean, I don't know if you call him a bust, but if he's a role player, if Victor Wembanyama is a role player, you wouldn't consider that a bust?
So I mean, like Evan Mobley was what, second or third? I mean,
he might. You kind of knew who he was. I'm saying if
not necessarily. I think people might have thought he had a higher offensive ceiling that he might end up playing. As long as he
just the answer is if Victor Wembanyama is a role player, a solid role player. Is he a bust?
If he plays an Andrew Wiggins-esque role, I don't think he's a bust on a championship team.
Yeah, that's where I disagree with him. I mean, this is the most high prospect in.
Like if you're fine, if he's still a max player, like and having a successful NBA career and contributing to winning, like bust has, I don't know, it just has an inherently negative connotation to me. So it's like yeah, I mean,
okay, agree to disagree. I think, the other thing is for me, like if injuries are the reason your career ended, I don't really consider you a bust. Like I don't consider Greg Oden a bust. He was a really good NBA player. But injuries just got in the way. So anyway, some interesting stuff. We'll see what Portland does. I mean, there's plenty of time to talk about the draft and the lottery. Portland, outside of the Spurs getting Victor Wembanyama, who by the way was a Spurs fan, it seems like. There's a picture because of Tony Parker and Boris Dia. Charlotte should take Scoot Henderson. I don't care if you have LaMelo. Take the best player. But yeah, we'll see. I think the most interesting thing outside of maybe the top two picks is what does Portland do with their third overall pick? Do they trade him? Do they trade Dame? Do they try to build around that pick or whatever? So, any final thoughts on the draft lottery?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, we have a lot of Detroit Pistons fans, so I was kind of hoping that they would land at the top three.
Yeah, me too. I wanted them to get Victor. I mean, Brandon Miller would have been helpful for them too, honestly. But
yeah, I don't know if 5 is a great place to be in this draft without knowing too much about the draft class. But yeah, it'll be interesting, like you said, with what Portland does as well. I believe I read a report today that said they're definitely open to shopping that pick.
We'll see what happens with that. But we do have, before we move on to the conference finals, I don't understand why this happens during the playoffs, but it is what it is. But we do have 2 conference finals going on, the Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and the Nuggets, and the Eastern Conference Finals between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. Let's start in Denver, where the Nuggets defeated the Lakers 108-103 to take a 2-0 lead over Los Angeles after winning 132-126 in Game 1. Really interesting series so far. For me, the Nuggets have looked, they looked really, really good in Game 1. They had a huge lead. The Lakers were able to come back. Game 2, the Lakers were in control, really. Not in control, but they were they were the better team through 3 quarters, it seemed like, and then Jamal Murray just went nuclear with 23 points in the 4th quarter. I think a good place to start is Rui Hachimura. I mean, he has been absolutely phenomenal for them. Late in Game 1, Darvin Ham made the adjustment to put Hachimura on Jokic defensively and have AD as more of a rover. That worked out well in those 6 possessions or whatever that Hachimura was on him, and they did it again tonight, and it was decently effective. Hachimura on offense too has been phenomenal in this series as well. So, what are some of your takeaways from the first 2 games of this series?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of the implications for further, I mean, Denver's in a really good spot right now in terms of winning the whole series. But, I mean, this Game 2 that we just watched, you have to feel, if you're a Lakers fan, like they let it get away from them a little bit. In the 4th quarter, I think LeBron James was doing a really good job through large portions of this game on offense, finding Jamal Murray. A lot of times they don't want to switch that matchups. They do the hedge and recover thing, and then he can find an open 3-point shooter. Or if they do switch, Jamal Murray on LeBron, that's an easy drive for him or an easy post up to get an open look for either himself or another shooter.
This trend of the soft switch really bugs me. Like, there's plenty of times where they did not have to switch Jamal Murray onto LeBron James.
I think for the most part they were doing the show and recover.
They were. In Game 1 they were not. From what I remember, it seemed like at least.
But it's a good point that like maybe you don't. Maybe you can play a more just traditional go under the screen kind of coverage.
I mean, is it just
LeBron...
too complicated? Is it too complicated to remember every single matchup? Like I don't know. Maybe it leads to so much miscommunication that you just need to do the saw switch sometime. But LeBron, dude, he's got to stop shooting threes. I mean, you mentioned it on our last podcast, I think.
I've mentioned it all playoffs. I mean, yeah.
He was 0 for 6 tonight.
The volume of threes he's shooting does not make any sense, especially with how dominant he's been at times inside. Today, he missed like 3 key shots near the rim that could have swung the game, like if you just add up the points that way.
2 layups and a dunk, which it looked like he was going for some, I don't know. It looks like he was going for a highlight dunk.
Yeah, highlight dunk.
Which you can't really say, like, I don't know.
But I thought LeBron overall played a pretty strong game. Offensively, getting his teammates involved. Defensively, for large stretches of the second half, Darvin Ham put him on Jokic, which gave him a little bit of trouble. Mm-hmm. Jokic in this game, I thought, didn't find a super good rhythm. I mean, his line is still, 23, 17, and 12. That's still, very good for most every player, but a little bit less efficient. A few turnovers that were a little bit costly. It didn't feel like he was able to get into a rhythm, and I really like what Darvin Ham has done on Jokic in this series. It feels like throwing AD on him for a possession can really mess with Jokic, because he's sometimes used to these weaker defenders guarding him, but then they send immediate doubles. So he could just never get comfortable. Like, Darvin Ham also is changing the coverage on him even when some other coverages are working, and I really liked those proactive changes against him.
Well, Jokic, a big part of his game is reading and thinking, and like if you can just make him do that more, I mean that's a win. Like and it's been working. Well, I mean,
yeah, it worked in this game to some extent.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. In game 1, I mean Jokic was phenomenal. He had 34 points, 14 assists, 21 rebounds. So. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed with what they did against Jokic tonight. I do wish Jokic would sometimes just take the shots that are there for him. I don't know. I understand like passing up a good shot for a great shot and everything like that, but to me, I mean, he can hit any shot. So sometimes I just want him to be a little bit more aggressive. But
I think it's
hard to argue.
I think it's a bit overstated when people talk about that, honestly, because you'll just look at the points that his team scores when he's on the court.
I don't really care what people are talking about. I'm just saying, like, based on what I see.
Okay, sure. Like, sure. I hear people say, like, oh, Jokic is not aggressive enough. He doesn't, like, his volume of shots is not high enough. You hear people say...
No, in general, I agree with... In general, I think he plays, like, the way he plays and it works.
He optimizes most possessions, yeah.
Sure. But I mean, there are times in both of these games where he was passing up like layups and stuff.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, he could have been more aggressive at times, and I think he opened up the second half being more aggressive, and that got Denver into a little bit of a rhythm.
And he's going to be less efficient when he does that, which like he was tonight. But I think we got to just step back and I mean he is so good. I mean, that Game 1 performance, like, I don't want to get too caught up on Game 2 because it just happened, but that Game 1 performance was one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen. Like, some of those passes he made.
Game 1,
his rebounding was, I mean, out of this world.
His rebounding was excellent. He had like 10 rebounds like the first 6 or 7 minutes of that game. Incredible stuff. I thought in both games of this series, Denver's been awesome in transition, and that's been a point where they've been beating out the Lakers. Mm-hmm. And Jokic is a huge part of it. Like he's so much quicker than he used to be earlier in his career, and he's making the right passes, and he's just a force in transition, and they always create open shots that way. In the first game, his first step looked amazing. He like dunked over Anthony Davis once. He just looked really in his bag 1-on-1 with AD. In this game, I thought when AD got that matchup, he had to settle for a little bit more floaters and hooks, which he's still so good at, but some of those didn't roll in. But I mean, Jokic is, the best offensive player on the planet, or either one or two, in my eyes with Steph. So yeah, he's absolutely incredible. But in this game, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. were not kind of bringing their offense to the table until the end of the game. Murray really just a rough first 3 quarters, not just in terms of his shot not going in, but sometimes not making the right pass. Really rough defensively at points, but in the fourth quarter, it's just like he went nuclear. I thought for a second that Malone wasn't going to take out Jokic at all, but rest him between that 9-minute mark and that 7-minute mark, and then Murray hits 2 key threes, keeps the team afloat, keeps the Nuggets with the lead, and then once Jokic came back in, they extend the lead further. So, crazy performance, crazy guts by Jamal Murray to start off 5 for 17 and then go for 6 for 7 in the fourth quarter and just end the game.
Yeah, Jamal Murray ends up with 31 points in game 1 and 37 points, I believe. Yeah, 37 points in game 2. He's been great in these last 2 series, in the entire playoffs, really. So, it's no longer Bubble Murray, it's just playoff Murray, or it's just Jamal Murray. Like, he's kind of back to where we were hoping he would be. If Denver is going to win a championship, they're going to absolutely need him. Is this the first time that Nikola Jokic has been undoubtedly the best player left in the playoffs? I think it's got to be, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking through the players right now. You could argue just that the second best player in terms of how they're playing right now is Jimmy Butler in these playoffs, or
no, I think it is.
Yeah, or Anthony. Yeah, Anthony Davis. It's tough because Anthony Davis in this game, obviously offensively, was not there at all, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But
it's kind of been an up and down. One game phenomenal, one game not very good.
That's kind of who he is, right? Because his jump shot's not there anymore.
That's why he's not a top 5-7 player in the NBA right now. But we'll talk about Davis.
But I agree with you, Jokic, all praise necessary, and I hope he gets his moment at this point.
Don't you think it's a different time? Like, it's different when Jokic, on any given night, Jokic can be the best player on the court, no matter who's on the court, right? Like, that's just how good he is. But I think what gives Denver, this kind of broke really well for Denver, because every single night he's going to be the best player on the court, which is just something to track going forward. If Boston wins the series, I think Boston could give Denver some problems, but not to get ahead of it.
Well, it broke right in the sense that Jokic is already one of the best players in the world. He's damn near every series he's going to be the best player.
But he didn't have to play Steph, I guess, which I think would have been a harder matchup for him.
No, yeah, the pick and rolls who can really mess with him in either drop coverage or playing high at the level of the screen. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Boston's going to be tricky because they're going to have enough shooting on the court where guys are not going to be able to rotate behind him as easily.
Boston's going to be tough.
Assuming that...
If they win.
Yeah, if they're down 1-0 right now, and we'll get to that series.
Denver still has to win, too.
Yes, of course. Have you ever seen a passing and cutting combination better than Jokic and Aaron Gordon? Like, it feels like Aaron Gordon literally gets like 10 points a game just cutting. And I think, obviously it's Jokic's brilliance, but like his timing on those cuts. And
Aaron Gordon is interesting. So they made an adjustment. He was in the dunker a lot in game 1. And then in this game, because of the whole Hachimura thing on Jokic, Gordon was playing on the wing, and I thought there was...
And important to mention that Anthony Davis had that assignment a lot. Yeah. So you want to make it harder for him to help.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't want to be in the paint as much. But I was impressed with his cutting. I was impressed with whoever Anthony Davis wasn't on. They were moving off the ball. Bruce Brown had a couple of really great cuts.
He's been a freight train in transition, too. Bruce Brown he's just... Awesome sixth man for them.
That might be... I can't remember what the other free agent pickups were this offseason right now, but what a phenomenal pickup for them. It just completely fortifies their team. And he's been great. He's shot great this year. Again, 2 for 4 from 3 in this game. 3 for 7 from 2. He does sometimes... It is weird how often, like, random role players will try Anthony Davis. Like, I don't really understand it. But, so if you're going to the basket, I guess you can't really stop yourself all the time. But, and, something we haven't really talked about, And I have not been paying much attention to it in this particular series, but in the previous round, Michael Porter Jr. was phenomenal on defense for his standards. And I mean, even if he's just like a playable player on defense, it's so different for them. If Michael Porter Jr. is not being played off the floor on that end.
Yeah, he's at points in the series he's gotten the Austin Reeves matchup, and I think like in game 1 he gave Reeves a lot of trouble because of those rear view contests. He was just blocking it because he has that length.
Tools. He has the length.
Yeah,
he has the length.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the lateral quickness might be like just like a somewhat of a weakness because we even see that just like in his overall offensive package. Teams are able to put smaller guys on him because they're not afraid of him driving past them or posting him.
Yeah, but he can shoot over anybody.
But he can shoot over anybody. But my point is I think his lateral quickness will stop him from being a great defender ever.
I mean, that's probably because of the injuries, but...
Sure.
Again, 4 for 7 from 3 tonight for him, too, so...
A neat thing for Michael Malone, I thought, defensively in this game was there was a lot in the second quarter and a little bit of the third quarter. Jokic really went into a deep drop, and I thought Jeff Van Gundy did a good job on the broadcast talking about this. And you can afford to do that when there's just not much shooting on the court for the Lakers. Like LeBron, you're not worried about his pull-up three. Dare him to shoot those, and he's going to apparently if he gets looks for them. And then Anthony Davis, you're not worried about popping or really even hitting floaters. So makes a lot of sense.
Jeff Van Gundy's a great commentator when he's not whining about the old days.
I think he's done less of that recently. But today sometimes it's not even about. Sometimes he just whines in general.
Today it seemed like they were actively rooting for the Lakers, and Mike Breen was just kind of there. But I know they actually weren't. But it was some weird vibes today. Maybe the Denver air was messing with them.
Yeah, there was some like that first flagrant call. They were like
that was clearly a flagrant to me.
Yeah. But I thought arguably Bruce Brown. Well, they were saying, there was
a flagrant on the other end.
I think that should have been a flagrant too. Bruce Brown got hit on the head. I mean, if you're gonna call, I think if head contact.
Bruce Brown or Hachimura? You're talking about the Lakers.
Bruce Brown got hit in the head.
Oh, on that particular call. On the other end, though, Hachimura also got hit in the head by Bruce Brown.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which probably should have been a flagrant, but.
But, I mean, speaking of free throws, I mean, the Lakers in both of these games got to the line a ton like they've been doing all season, and it still hasn't mattered, partly because they can't shoot threes.
They shot terribly.
And that's something that wasn't... I mean, it was solved a little bit in the trades, but Malik Beasley isn't really seen as playable by Darvin Ham, and Jared Vanderbilt's never going to be a floor spacer, and then D'Lo... I mean, he's a good, decent, I guess, shooter, and hasn't really shot well in the playoffs overall, but he's causing a lot of problems. I thought in the first quarter, Denver hunted him a lot defensively. So there's still holes in this Lakers roster, and if you have an offense like Denver and a coach like Michael Malone, I think they've been able to expose those holes.
Well, I mean, Denver's very clearly the superior team, in my opinion, and the Lakers. I really, really like this roster. It's why I called them a contender right at the trade deadline. I really believe that, and I think we're kind of seeing that. But I do think those holes just make it... They just don't have enough offense to win a title, in my opinion. Especially if LeBron is not going to be... I mean, especially if this is the version of LeBron we're going to get for the rest of the playoffs. Which is a really, really good player, but it's not the LeBron James, we're used to. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, every game, though, it seems like one or two Lakers role players step up. Like today was Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves, 22 and 21 points, respectively.
There was the huge Lonnie Walker game in the Warriors series. Yeah, I
mean, Rui Hachimura has been great throughout the playoffs. Dennis Schroeder has had his, good games as well. So... it's gonna be really difficult to win if Anthony Davis is going 4 for 15 from the field. Even if he's shooting 11 free throws, it's gonna be really difficult to win. And also if LeBron is taking 6 threes and making none of them, it's just I don't know. And those missed threes, man. I mean, they lead to transition points where the Lakers have such a great half court defense. If you're giving up those transition points, like you said, which Denver can really take advantage of. That puts you at a disadvantage.
Well, I think even more so. I mean, the fact that they can't shoot threes causes them to drive forcefully into the lane.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're falling over.
And then you get
that's really where you give up the most.
Sure. And then you give the leak out passes.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, missed shots in general lead to transition points. So
it's going to give Denver awesome transition offense, which they 142 points per 100 possessions on transition possessions for Denver, and they got out 22% of the time, which is a lot. So that's a battle they won.
That's game 2 or for the series?
That's for game 2.
Okay.
And then the other thing was the Lakers could not get an offensive rebound at all. Only 11% offensive rebound rate in this game. And you'd think that could be a place where they could take advantage because of their relative length. They play lineups where they don't even play a point guard a lot. But this is an interesting series in general in terms of size, because there's a lot of times where when Jokic and Anthony Davis are out, neither team is really playing at center. It's LeBron at the 5 on one end, or Hachimura, whoever we want to call the 5, and then Aaron Gordon at the other. Credit to Malone for not playing a backup center, because Denver doesn't have any good ones, and just playing Aaron Gordon at the 5 and switching everything. That's been really good.
They have Thomas Bryant, but
that didn't work out well when Thomas Bryant was playing.
No.
Like, in the non-Jokic minutes were a disaster in the regular season.
No.
This was the best way to go, I think.
I agree.
More better players.
I agree. I do think Malik Beasley might be someone they should look at in game 3. I just they need a little bit of spacing.
Yeah. I also this might sound like a kind of a dumb adjustment, but like maybe Anthony Davis should just try letting a couple fly at the beginning of the game and then maybe changing the geometry of the court. Because I'm thinking about when this series happened in the bubble, and maybe maybe that's probably not good advice because Anthony Davis isn't a good shooter, but like that was such a key part of their championship run, and it was in a closed gym with no fans, but Anthony Davis jumper, it was falling that entire playoff run.
Yeah,
and you wish you had that.
I mean, the Nuggets are just a better team than they were back then, and LeBron is 3 years older. So, I mean, it's just not the same dynamic. I know that's not what you were talking about specifically, but, like, I don't think it's a bad adjustment for Anthony Davis to let it fly a little more, but...
Just at the beginning of the game to see if it goes in. Obviously,
I would like Aaron Gordon to do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have enough other shooters though that Aaron Gordon doesn't need to let it fly.
They do, but if you can at least make the Lakers think about making an adjustment there, I think it's worth it.
I thought Denver did a better job of spacing the court as the game went along. Like they had a couple times. I thought in game 1 they did a really good job of just having a really good shooter either one pass away. Like KCP got several. Like when they went to double Jokic, immediately Jokic would let go and KCP would hit a 3. But in this game, they were able to make that rotation back to Jokic quicker. So then they started spacing Porter Jr. and KCP further away. And they were able to knock them down. Also, they just hit shots in the second half. That helped them a lot. But yeah, Denver, from a statistical point of view, that was the big thing in the second half. I mean, the Nuggets just started hitting their threes. Both teams couldn't hit threes in the first half. And then in the second half, the Nuggets could and the Lakers still couldn't. And... it's luck a little bit, but it's also indicative of the shooting disparity between these rosters.
Yeah, well, and I will say, like we've kind of alluded to it. I think the tactical. Darvin Ham's been very impressive to me.
I think he's coached a great series. Yeah,
I mean he's coached a great playoffs.
Yeah,
and Michael Malone too. I mean, there's so many adjustments that are happening on the floor. LeBron on Jokic was working. And then Michael Malone starts running back screens for Jamal Murray coming around the edge, and Aaron Gordon being the screener and cutting to the basket. Like it's just so hard to guard that with Jokic. If you're bringing Anthony Davis out of the paint and LeBron is on ball, I mean you have somebody in the paint that you probably don't want on Anthony Gordon. So I just really like everything that's going on. I think you saw LeBron and Dennis Schroeder playing a 2-man game late in I don't know how much I like that, but I do like LeBron being the screener a bit more.
Well, I don't mind it if you're involving Dennis Schroeder's man, which could be Jamal Murray.
It is Jamal Murray.
So then LeBron knows what he's doing with that. Sure. I think that is honestly I think the problem with the Lakers right now is that's basically the only thing that's working offensively for them is actions with LeBron either screening as the ball handler. I think that's what the Lakers did really well in the second quarter was just LeBron just finding Jamal Murray. every time, making them show and recover, making him switch. But besides LeBron just kind of imposing his will on smaller guys and doing that, there's just like no other consistent offense. I think they started to do a better job of taking advantage of Jokic in the deeper drop. Like D'Lo snaked a pick and roll and made a shot. They made a couple floaters, but like they just aren't. They aren't built to have this super awesome pick and roll attack. I think.
Well, if Denver's gonna be in the drop, like a LeBron AD pick. Well, so AD's got to hit his shots. That's the thing, right? He's got to hit his mid-range shots.
Yeah, he's got to hit just even as like his like a floater, like a push shot. Which
I mean, that's what it's gonna come down to, really.
But that was a great idea from Malone to do it in this game when neither player could hit a jump shot.
Yeah,
made a lot of sense. And Jokic, credit to Jokic, like a part of the reason that they didn't run that coverage a lot in the regular season is because Jokic is not a good rim protector. But when he's been locked in, he's at least contesting some shots to the rim. In this game, both teams did not score well for this entire game, and I think Jokic had an inconsistent game defensively, but the effort's definitely there for him, and he definitely knew what he was doing in terms of executing the different coverages that they were playing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Nuggets are just going to get better in this series as Aaron Gordon figures out where he's going to need to be on the floor. If they're putting whenever Hachimura is on Jokic, I just trust them to figure it out more and be able to adjust more because they just have better players than the Lakers. So, do you think the Lakers have a shot, or is this kind of over?
I think this is kind of over. I don't. Yeah, I mean, AD is gonna have to play A+ or like A+ offensively. LeBron's gonna have to have another game where
we did not mention he had 40 points in game one.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible offensive game. Just absolutely tearing apart Jokic. They were both guarding each other for the most part for most of that game one. That was just such a special matchup. That game shouldn't be forgotten. AD absolutely put the team on his back and overall has been good offensively. He hasn't just been a defensive player throughout this playoff run, and but today he just didn't have it. That game one too, and it's gonna be painful because the Nuggets are the better team, but the Lakers just had chances. Like Jamal Murray in game one, there were so many possessions where they were almost dead, and then he's such a good bailout shot maker.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that so many times. Like the adjustment from the Lakers, maybe if in that game one with Hachimura, maybe they could have done it a little bit earlier, but yeah, it was just tough. Like when Jokic is going like that and they're shooting like that in game one, it was going to be hard to stop them. And then today, if you can't hit a shot, it makes it all the more easier for the Lakers or the Denver to crowd the rim. And they know the Lakers' offensive game is just to attack the rim, get free throws, and it's hard to do that when there's no space on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this one's I don't think it's over. Like, I think there is a chance that the Lakers can come back and win, but I mean, everything is going to have to go right for the Lakers, and I don't really see that happening. But I think like going into next season, I don't know. We'll see how LeBron just doesn't look right. I don't know if it's like age or if it's because of his injury. But he doesn't look right. Like, he made a phenomenal play. Denver, I mean, one of those moments you were talking about, Denver was up 4 with under 30 seconds left. LeBron steals an inbounds pass and then misses a layup. It's not an easy layup, but it's a layup you expect LeBron James to make.
Yeah, no, that was a key moment. It almost felt like it was over, and then, Michael Malone called his timeout. They had a chance to just kind of play the foul game, Denver, but yeah, LeBron stole it. Before that, there was this crazy possession, which was like one of the weirdest possessions you'll ever see, where there's great paint defense from the Lakers. LeBron hurts his ankles on the ground, and then the Lakers are playing a 4-on-5 on the other end, and then Austin Reeves banks in a 3. Like, that could have, if the Lakers came to like send this to overtime, that would have been a huge reason that they did so. Like, that was just a crazy possession. They were 4-on-5 and they banked in a 3. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. We all know what it is. LeBron's gotten older. He's still a really good player. I thought he played awesome defense at points today, but yeah, the finishing and the possession to possession lack of dominance is where you really see that age. I agree with that. We should just quickly mention, I thought it was a good adjustment for Darvin Ham at the beginning of this game to start Vanderbilt instead of Schroeder. I thought Vanderbilt gave Murray a really tough time for the first 3 quarters, so I liked that. Vanderbilt's done a great job of guarding. He's guarded Ja Morant, Steph Curry, and now Jamal Murray, so he's able to guard smaller players.
Yeah. And I think Darvin Ham's an interesting case for, maybe because someone is from a coaching tree doesn't mean they're going to be exactly the same as their, I don't know, as they're the head of their tree or whatever. Because I feel like it would have taken Bud 3 games to make the adjustments that Darvin Ham has made.
I mean,
not to bring it back from the Bucks, but I think he just deserves a lot of credit. I think it's something like as these coaching searches happen, something to consider. Like, just because someone was an assistant somewhere doesn't mean they're gonna be like as good or as bad in certain areas as who they were under.
Absolutely, and the proactive changes have been really good. And at the end of the day, this is a less flawed roster than it was before, but in reality, like, they added three new players that are actually playing in their rotation at the deadline, and it's still a flawed roster where they don't have a lot of awesome two-way players, and they're able to make it work, partly because of LeBron and Anthony Davis, but Darvin Ham, tons of credit to him for where the Lakers are right now.
Yep, absolutely. All right, going over to the other side of the bracket, the Boston Celtics lost to the Miami Heat. Miami, one of the craziest runs I think I've ever seen in NBA history. The 26th ranked offense in the regular season, scoring 123 points on the road in Boston to pick up the victory to go up 1-0. Boston 4-4 at home in the playoffs, and I think 11-11 in their last 22 games at home in the playoffs, which is a pretty crazy record.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, once again, incredible. 35 points for him. Boston had a big lead, a 16-point lead at one point. Boston had a big lead, and then Miami went on a huge run.
In that third quarter. They outscored.
Miami outscored Boston by 16 points in the second half, which is what I meant to say. So, whereas Denver has the best player left in the playoffs, Miami has the best coach left in the playoffs. So, I mean, that really gives them an advantage. And, these guys, these role guys in Miami are scoring. And they're doing things on offense, which is crazy. And what I really loved in this game was how aggressive Bam Adebayo was. And, I feel like we've been hearing it for years. Like, Bam Adebayo's got to be more aggressive. He's got to shoot. And he was doing that. And he was keeping Rob Williams honest. And I really like when he's doing that in the mid-range. Gabe Vincent, again, 3 for 5 from 3. Caleb Martin, 3 for 7 from 3. Max Strus, 3 for 5 from 3. Kyle Lowry, 3 for 5 from 3. Every single player shot at least 50% from the field, except for Duncan Robinson, who was 0 for 2, and except for Jimmy Butler, who was 12 for 25. But, he had 35 points and 10 free throws attempted, 9 free throws made. So, just a phenomenal performance from Miami to steal a game in Boston.
Absolutely. Just incredible. Before the season, if I would have told you that Kevin Love, Gabe Vincent, and Max Strus were starting in a conference finals game, I don't know if we would have seen that coming. And obviously, for them to weather the Tyler Hero injury as well. And in retrospect, we could talk about how, like, maybe if they're able to score enough points, that's helped them on defense or whatever. But at the end of the day, he was one of their most important players. He was going to play 35 plus minutes in some of these games, and it's a huge loss, and they're still able to push through without him. Yeah, I love what you said about Bam Adebayo in this game. I thought he was aggressive at all the right points. I agree with you that he made Robert Williams think about sagging off of him, and I thought in the end he actually forced some double teams, which led to open threes for Heat players. I thought that was a bit of a theme throughout this game, that the Celtics, it's not like the Heat got a huge volume of threes off, but the Celtics did overhelp a little bit in certain cases.
Bam's a really underrated facilitator, and I know people know he's a good facilitator, but he's basically their point guard. He has the ball in his hands at the top of the key, so he was really good on offense, and like they're going to need that from him to win the series. Yeah, I mean, and Miami, they just run a lot of sets for Jimmy to try to get him open, a lot of double pick and rolls for him. And if Jimmy's going to be hitting his shots, like it's impossible. And then again, like, if you're running a double pick and roll with Kevin Love popping and Bam rolling, and then Jimmy has the ball, it's tough. I mean, even as good as Boston are, and as many good defenders as they have, it's just gonna be tough. I don't know if I mean, I feel like I've been saying it for the entire playoffs. Like, I don't know if Miami can sustain this, but they are. They continue to sustain it. Against New York, they didn't shoot that well, but Miami's probably a better team than New York. So, that wasn't that surprising that they won despite that. But they're gonna need shooting like this to win the series, I think.
Yeah, according to Cleaning the Glass, they shot 55% from three non-garbage time possessions for this game. So that's obviously, I don't know if they're going to need that.
And a lot of bailout shots too, like Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler. And I think that's kind of the problem. And, before Miami before Boston went on their run while Boston, rather, went on their run in the second quarter, Miami looked pretty lost on offense. Like, they were not getting good shots. Kyle Lowry was just chucking up shots. Caleb Martin as well was chucking up shots. Like, they just couldn't really get any open looks.
Boston, I thought, also was really playing well in transition. And, and I think the drop coverage was able to work a lot for them. They actually didn't switch as much as I thought. As the game went on, and this is, like, I guess a trend in, like, a lot of playoff games over the years, but as the game went on, both teams started switching more, but actually there wasn't for two super switchy teams, there wasn't a lot of switching in the first half, which I thought was interesting, and definitely gave the Heat a bit of trouble in the first half.
Yeah, I mean just to go back, like Jimmy's ability just to always find the matchup he wants, or like I guess his presence of mind to always find the matchup he wants is fun to watch. Peyton Pritchard played at the end of the first quarter. Right when he came in, the first thing Jimmy did was put Peyton Pritchard into the action. So I mean, he's always going to be doing that.
By the way, why is Peyton Pritchard playing?
I don't know.
In a game where Miami put up a 128 offensive rating, and you have Grant Williams just there doing nothing on the bench. I don't really understand.
I mean, he only
why
played
Peyton
11
Pritchard's
minutes, but
still, I mean, those are 11. I mean, why not try out Grant Williams in a series like this?
Yeah, I mean honestly,
he would be a body to throw at Jimmy Butler. I mean, he would be he would get rebounds for you. He could, he would be a steadying presence. He was great for the Boston in the playoffs last year. I don't really get why Grant Williams is not a part of this rotation consistently, or isn't trusted to even come in a game at this point.
Yeah. I don't really know. I mean, if you don't want to play Grant Williams, I'd rather Derek White just play 31 minutes. Like, just give him Peyton Pritchard's minutes. I know it doesn't actually work like that because they can be on the floor at the same time, but
no, I mean, I don't think he was being hunted the entire time he was in this game.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. How many points did he have? 0.
Peyton Pritchard? He took 2 shots. Yeah, he had 0.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's not going to add anything offensively, I mean, obviously you don't know he's not going to add anything offensively, but I just don't. I don't think that calculus should be there for him to be playing. But yeah, like I like what you said. Like Boston did a great job attacking Strus a lot, forcing them to try to get him in and out of actions. And Marcus Smart had a beautiful passing first 3 quarters at least.
Yeah, 11 assists, and I think 10 of those came in the first 3 quarters. I mean, Boston just kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. Like Jason Tatum did not touch the ball for a long period towards the end of the game. Then when he did, he turned the ball over like 3 separate times, 2 straight travels. Like I don't understand what was going on there. 1 assist for Jason Tatum today to 4 turnovers, or not today, in game 1 to 4 turnovers. I don't know. I mean, Jaylen Brown and Al Horford were combined 2 for 11 from 3. You would expect that not to be the case going forward. But I mean, Boston just has games like this in every series.
They have games where the process offensively just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
They just it's just kind of everyone kind of going for themselves. They panic way too quickly. Tatum has to be part of your actions.
Yeah.
At the end of games.
Yeah.
He's a decent enough passer. We just saw him score 51 points?
Yeah.
In a game 7. Why is he not touching the ball at the end of the game?
No, I don't understand. But then when he did, like, he turned the ball over in this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that, and that is inexcusable as well, but at the same point, like, but then he was pressing after he was not involved. I mean,
No, right.
I just think, like, overall in the fourth quarter, he needs to be touching the ball.
Right.
And, yeah, I don't really get it. There was an interesting possession in the third quarter where, like, Jaylen Brown, like, was, like, in between a shot and a pass and just, like, threw it at the backboard. And I thought that was kind of a good indication that, like, the Celtics were, like, losing it a bit mentally. And I feel like, I mean, I think the psychology of sports can sometimes be overstated, but, like, sometimes with the Celtics, you just see these stretches where it's like, you guys have so much talent on the court. Just run your stuff. Go at their weak points. Use your best players.
Well, you know, Miami went to a zone at the beginning of the second quarter, and I mean they were a little bit flummoxed, and then they were like, "All right, we're gonna drive. Like we're just gonna drive," and it worked.
Tatum going downhill. They could not stop
Brown.
him.
Yeah, they couldn't stop it. So, and I get it. I know I've said it before. I want Tatum to add the mid range back into his game. I think like it could really help in a series like this.
Yeah, he was doing a great job in the regular season of hitting that floater, but it seems like he's lost confidence in that.
Yeah,
and then
we talk about Jokic in transition and his outlet passes. I mean, Kevin Love. Was Kevin Love always this good at outlet passes?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's insane. He had another one today to Max, or not today. Why do I keep saying today? This was 2 days ago. He had another one in this game against to Max Strus in the third quarter. So I don't know. I mean,
I thought
he's been really impressive.
Yeah, he's been really impressive in general, and he shot the ball okay in this game. But he had 2 threes, right?
Yeah.
In this game, but he defensively he was getting picked at, so Spoelstra went away from him a little bit.
Yeah.
And Cody Zeller was doing a little bit better defensively. And he's been a great pick and roll partner for Kyle Lowry, Kyle Lowry's he's been awesome. What is going on? He was nothing in the regular season.
I mean, he was hurt.
He was hurt, but even when he was playing, like I did not see this coming from him.
Yeah. He was minus 11 in this game.
I think what also flummoxed Boston in the fourth quarter was when just the fact that you're able to play Bam Adebayo in both a deep drop at the level, switch him. They were just completely switching him, and then there are moments where like, why are you taking Bam Adebayo on Jaylen Brown? Like this is what Bam Adebayo. This is a signature thing. He can switch on to basically any player in the league and do a good job. Like stuff like that doesn't make sense process wise for Boston offensively, but
Boston's got to be. If you're a Boston fan, you just gotta be so frustrated with this team, like, throughout this playoffs. I mean, they should not have lost 6 games in the playoffs so far.
No.
I mean, this is...
And one of them was with a hurt Embiid not playing.
Embiid not playing, yeah.
All of the games...
I mean, 2 of them were against the Hawks.
Yeah, and arguably all those games Embiid was hurt.
Right.
Was at least... But, I mean, you know...
And, you know, Tatum's been really inconsistent, too. I mean, he had a good game in game 1. He had 3... Well, I mean... He had a good game on paper in game 1. He had 30 points.
Yeah, a lot of that was... He had 11 free throws, credit to him. I thought from the field, yeah, it was a bit of an adventure at times with him. But when he got downhill, he was a really effective player. What's interesting is that in some of these recent games where Boston's been winning, like they're losing a bit of confidence in their 3-point shot. Only 29 attempts today.
Well, I think Miami's like their ability to switch, which they didn't do much, but they're just their defensive ability in their zone. I mean, they were running him off the 3-point line.
No, they were trying to take away threes. You're right, and that's why actually, to their detriment, almost Robert Williams was getting alley oops and they were getting cuts to the basket. Marcus Smart threw a number of assists to Robert Williams. So you're right. Miami was looking to take away the 3 in this game, and that's probably part of the reason that they didn't get as many up.
No, yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in game 2. I think Boston should win. I mean, they should win this series, really. But I mean, we've been saying. I mean, the Bucks should have beaten Miami. So I mean, maybe Miami can pull a miracle, and Jimmy Butler can head to his second finals in Miami. Because I'm rooting for it, frankly, because it's just such a phenomenal story.
Yeah, I mean, 8 seed making the finals.
But I mean, you look at this, like Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, like What is going on? I don't really understand it, but
yeah, the roster
it's fun.
It's coaching, and then it's Jimmy Butler, and obviously it's all these guys stepping up too. Caleb Martin, like, he's been so good. He's shooting 71% from 2 in these playoffs, and pretty well on 3. So like his pump and go game is not what I thought it was. Like, he's been able to really put the ball on the floor and get to the basket.
Jimmy Butler had 35. Bam Adebayo had 20, and then they had 4 guys with 15 points.
And 4 or 5 of which hit 2 threes as well. Like, that's super key if you're making the defense think where to help all over the court.
No, all 4 of those guys hit 3 threes.
Yeah. And Jimmy Butler, not to mention, he guarded Tatum for much of this game. 6 steals. Yeah, that's a thing. He just did.
6 steals. Yeah.
And he was just attacking Malcolm Brogdon at the end of the game and hitting these mid-range jumpers that are just impossible shots, but like, you can't expect them to be impossible anymore. Like, he's just such a baller in the playoffs. Like,
yeah. And you know, I mentioned like these 4 guys. Max Strus, I mean, he was huge in that run Miami made, hitting some big shots for them. So, yeah.
Yeah. He
what
was huge in that initial run. Yeah, in terms of like the he can really space you out, like, further than a lot of their other guys can. I think he's super key. Even though he's liable defensively at times, like, yeah, his 3-point shooting is like a weapon. Even if he's not hitting it, just his spacing is super important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that 5 of Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Lowry, I think that's going to be what they close a lot of games with. That's what they closed with in this game. I thought, yeah, like, the Celtics can do a better job, I think, of not double teaming, live with Bam Adebayo hitting more mid-range jumpers, and even Jimmy Butler to a certain extent, because you can't let the whole machine get going, like they did in Game 1. So that's what I'd look to see. I'd like to see a little bit more intentional offense, some more 2-man game. Just involve Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, whoever the weakest defender is, in like, have Tatum call that guy, whoever that guy is guarding, up for a screen, and just attack that matchup, and then tell Tatum to get downhill, and then get your drive and kick machine going. They should not be able to guard that.
Yeah. Something else I noticed too, I just remembered, was how well they were boxing out Robert Williams and allowing someone else to get a rebound. Like, that's going to be really key. They gotta stay on that, because Rob, I mean, he can be a huge asset on the boards, and he still got 7 boards and 4 offensive rebounds. Williams did, but
Miami as a team offensive rebounded better than Boston this game, which I wouldn't expect. So that's going to be a point where I could see a couple games where Boston just dominates the boards and gets a lot of second possessions. Especially,
and they're going to have 3-point shooting games too. I mean,
for sure. But especially because Bam is often playing either high at the level of the screen or switching out in the perimeter. He's not always there to rebound, and then Miami just doesn't have the length to rebound defensively. And Celtics don't exactly have that same issue on the other end, because Robert Williams will be near the rim often because of the way they play defense. Mazzulla did the right thing, sticking with Robert Williams in the starting lineup in this game, but it took him too long to make that adjustment in the Sixers-Celtics series. So I think this is there's a big coaching deficit here for Boston, and I think that's going to be Miami's hope.
I mean, this is first year, to be fair to me.
No, I mean, yeah. Regardless, yeah. I think it exists, though, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Spoelstra is just a phenomenal coach. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Game 2 is on Friday night. Next time we record will probably be next week. So there'll probably be, 4 games in total between now and then. So we'll see what happens. We'll know a little bit more. The Denver series could be over next time we record. So, I mean, I don't think it will be, but
yeah, it's possible. And it's going to be weird a little bit with these episodes, because literally there's only 2 series going on. So if you talk about both in an episode, one of the series is immediately going to get less relevant. But
I mean, there's a game every day.
Yeah.
So, every single day an episode goes out, there will be a game that evening. So, but with that, remember, you can email us at clearoutpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at clearoutpodcast. And we'll see you guys next time on the next episode.